Hi everyone, it's Michael Citron with the Citron Real Estate Group here for our 52nd edition of Ask Michael Monday.
No cake.
We're getting right into some serious issues. We've had our Ask Michael Monday shows for a year now. It's been amazing. We started this crazy idea over a year ago and it's been so informative. We've had so many people come on the show, great people in our city and surrounding areas, experts, and just providing our expert advice, and it's taken off, and we're so happy that it 52 episodes in and we're going strong. So I appreciate Bob coming on. Tell us a little about yourself and why you chose to become a Parkland Commissioner.
Well, first of all, Michael, I want to thank you for having me on,
Thanks
especially 52 episode. So now I have a 1-year anniversary to celebrate.
Next year we'll have you
next year. Hey. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I grew up in Queens and then moved after first grade to Spring Valley, New York, which is in Rockland County. It's about 30 miles northwest of New York City. Went to school in Buffalo, in Syracuse, so cold weather. And then came down here for what I thought was going to be 3 weeks. And haven't left since, and that was like 35 years ago.
Wow.
So I've been here. I moved professionally. I have a food brokerage business. So what I do is I'm a independent sales rep for different food manufacturers. I tell people I don't take possession of product. I don't distribute product. All I do is, act as the middleman. So been doing that for 23 years. As far as in Parkland, I've been a resident now for 22 years. Wow. When first, started to develop a family, got married, had a son, we looked for places to live. And it was interesting because every week I was buying a new home. You put the $1,000 deposit down. 7 days later, you decide, not sure. So we finally settled in Parkland, moved into Mayfair. And my son Garrett went to school Riverglades, Westglades, Stoneman Douglas. In fact, he was in the first freshman class that used that freshman building.
Wow.
So it hits home, brings back some memories. I've been, as I said, involved in a lot of different things in our community. Served on our Planning and Zoning Advisory Board for 5 years. Served on our Education Advisory Board for 3 years. 2 of them I was the chair. Served as we had discussed previously, Parkland Buddy Sports.
That's when I first met you.
I'm currently the past president, currently still a board member. For those of you who don't know what Parkland Buddy Sports does, we take young adults and children with disabilities, pair them up with your neurotypical kids, and they play sports together.
Yeah, the buddies are the students.
Right.
Yeah, it's a great organization. We've been involved with it for many years.
Right. So we, engage them, we educate them, and we empower them, and they realize, especially the students, the difference they can make in somebody's life. So it's a great program. And as I said, it's something that is really near and dear to my heart. Also been involved, obviously, in our PTAs, PTOs, school advisory councils, a trustee member of our board member, as well as the Parkland Chamber of Commerce. And as far as being a commissioner, it's all about, to me, public service. Serving on our advisory boards was kind of the training ground, the next step. Deciding whether I wanted to become a commissioner, and I felt this was the best way to give back to the community, and was elected in November 2016, took office, and I'm just still today humbled and proud to serve.
Yeah, it's great to have you. I know we have a great commission right now. I'm really looking forward to the future. So obviously, everybody's talking about the latest things in the news, with the latest resignations of the 2 Broward County Sheriff deputies that were in charge during the MSD shooting, as well as we could be honest, the numerous failures by BSO. Why hasn't the commission decided to move forward already with looking at other police organizations to police Parkland? Many residents have voiced their disapproval of BSO and are already calling for a change. So
let me first say that, we all recognize that there were failures on February 14th. But there were also an abundance of responders, teachers, students that performed heroic acts, were very professional. So I don't want to forget those people because they're as important in moving forward and learning from, I'll call it the failures. but I want to recognize those that really did an unbelievable job. So I know especially our like I said, first responders.
Sure.
There were teachers that
Gave
were out there. We're out there taking bullets for people. So that I really want to bring forward. The other thing is we have been out there and looking for a change, and we talked briefly. And what I want to kind of do is kind of give everybody a little bit of a timeline so that they know what we've been doing, and get some of that background so they have a complete understanding. So in March, the mayor at one of the commission meetings requested the city manager to have an RFP. The RFP was to obtain services for a public safety consultant that would look at our current contract, look at compliance levels in the contract, see if we have adequate staffing levels. So, whether we need 5 officers on the street or 10 officers on the street, they would look at that. They would analyze the roles of the SRO, as well as go out to the community and find out what the community was interested in, desired, policing levels.
Sure.
And then finally, they would present the review and analysis of police service delivery models, which again could be our own, continuing with BSO, going out to another agency. So that's what they did. So at the end of March, the RFP was advertised. April, it was all submitted in. In May, the staff reviewed the proposals or the responders. And in June, we selected the Center for Public Safety Management. That is a group that is very well trained. They've done some reports, actually, one right in here in Coconut Creek, looking at policing levels and service of Coconut Creek Police. They have a mixture of, call it law enforcement professionals, some for municipalities that have worked in municipalities, and others as well that have worked in county agencies. So it's a great blend. They look through things in a different lens, and that's what they've done. In June and August of this year, we had focus groups. There were 6 focus groups that were out there, and they should be bringing that shortly back to the city to outline some of the major themes that these focus groups had. And by the way, just to backtrack for a second, focus groups averaged around 10 to 12 people, some a little bit more, a lot of varied demographics. So it really provided a comprehensive input from community stakeholders. So they're going to outline, like I said, some of the major themes that were consistent over these focus group. They're going to look at the calls that we've had in the city over a course of time, the expectations and the role of the SRO, which we've talked about. And then they're also going to do a crime, what they call a CPTED, which is a crime prevention through environmental design. So they're going to evaluate our parks and our buildings, and then they will bring all that forward, the analysis of the police service delivery model. And they are waiting at this point for the FDLE report to come out, because they're also going to incorporate some of their findings in the report as well. So we're going to have a comprehensive report, and expectations are it should be completed by the beginning of the year. So beginning of the year, we'll have those findings. We will certainly share those findings with the public. And then we can begin to have our robust conversation to determine what direction we take.
I look forward to that conversation. The thing that I talked to Christine about it. I couldn't find this. You brought this. It was in one of the commission. Obviously, I could have looked at every single one of the meetings and found it.
You could have just called.
Yeah, I was just trying to look as a resident would look. If they didn't go to that meeting, they could have called up. I just think this is so important that it should be readily available.
Right.
And I certainly will take this and put it up there, and we can scan this and do it. It's public information. It can be. I just feel that a lot of people don't know about this report. I believe it. I didn't know a lot about it until I interviewed Christine, and she told me about it. Because not every resident can attend these meetings, and I just feel that it could be prominently put up. That's my 2 cents, because this is the first time, because I didn't have an hour to go through every single one of your commission meetings. I didn't know what date exactly, and it was March 30th that you guys put it into place. So I'll certainly read more of this. I see the seal of the city, the whole thing. So that's my biggest
this is just
when you guys
is just enacting it. So the scope of service
is in the other
the scope of service is in the RFP, which again I provided you just some copies so you understood what they were looking at, as well as once we get that report, it will be shared out there.
Okay. So obviously, that's great. I mean, we need to really get all the information. There's many reports that you will be able to use, but it's the city's commission that's going to ultimately decide. Whatever you feel, if you're an Israel supporter or not, whatever it is, the city commission can make the decision to hire or fire who's going to police our city. Correct?
Correct.
Okay. So that's the only thing I have. My question of why hasn't the city publicly reacted or commented to the recent failures by BSO? One being the person in charge. You guys had involvement in having her removed. Now she's being formally removing herself. And then the first officer on site. We've seen those body cams. I mean, it hits home.
He's on administrative.
He's on administrative leave. So we see that this information is certainly it's coming to the surface here. So I know you're waiting for a report, but a report's going to talk about, how many police officers, things of that nature. But these other reports, I feel, are accountability reports. I mean, that commission, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Commission report, is an accountability issue because obviously people are losing their jobs, and even today I saw, assistant principals and staff being taken off duty. So that's where I feel that we could have a little bit more city response to it. I think we should. I mean, it's my opinion. I told it to Christine on the phone. I mean, she's nice enough. We live in a great city where the mayor will call you when you post something. So I appreciate she called, and I had a really constructive conversation. I want to see support, where we're going to show, because we all lost, friends and loved ones in that tragedy. We don't ever want it to happen again, and I feel it's an accountability issue. And I feel that the BSO has not come forward, and it's not being held accountable right now.
Well, there are a couple of aspects. So you look at the accountability, you look at the trust, and you look at what law enforcement has been providing today. As I said, I don't want to continue to go back to the report, but that's what the report then will either provide and say, what you're hearing out on the street is exactly what's going on, or it may have a different focus. And I think those are some of the things that the report then will document. The other thing is, and I think an interesting piece to add to it, is that there are 14 other municipalities that use BSO as a service provider. They also service the port, they service the courthouse, they service the detention center, and I think a couple of other areas. They're all the 14 other municipalities are anxiously waiting this FDLE report. They all have, we've had conversations with some of the elected officials in those municipalities. They're all waiting for that report to see what the outcomes are. And that will give us some insight into, as I said, the service level that we need to have, what BSO has or has not provided, and then as you were saying before, where as a commission then we make those decisions, from all aspects, from a financial aspect, from an aspect of service level, from an aspect of training, where we go with this, and that's why I said it wouldn't be pragmatic for me to just say, here's where I am emotionally. I've got to rise above that and look at it and make the decision, because in 2004 we did make a change, and there were a lot of residents that wanted to keep our Parkland public safety that wasn't accredited, because they liked that hometown feeling. But from a pragmatic standpoint, you look at what BSO had to offer, and that response, although it wasn't the most seamless, it was, change from BSO, change from our own Parkland Public Service to BSO and Coral Springs Parkland Fire. So that's where we made that change, and again, a lot of people were out there similar to what's going on today. We're saying, keep our own. So We will look at it. We've got some, like I said, we've got Rich Walker, who's new on the commission. We have some great minds, and I think that collectively we may vary in opinion, but at the end of the day, we're going to make a decision that is going to be in the residents' best interest.
I think most residents are looking forward to that. I think it's the safety. I think people are concerned about safety right now, and all this stuff coming out. It makes you as a resident feel that safety it's got to be number one.
Yep.
Getting into another recent increase in taxes, I had Ken Cutler on. He gave me a chart, explained it great. How do you feel? I know you weren't a proponent of it,
right?
But briefly describe what the tax increase was needed for and how you think it will affect our city.
Well, I was on the dissenting side of the increase. And a lot of it was for reasons that, obviously it was a 10.6% increase. There were a lot of components that we usually have when we go out and, again, getting that resident input, providing notice at our, I guess it was July meeting when we approved at the time it was a 4.8, it was the maximum we could allow. We had expressed that we wanted resident input. We wanted them to know that, hey, wait a second here, we're increasing, your taxes from 3.978 to 4.8. It's a substantial amount of dollars and money, and we wanted residents to know about that. Staff was not too quick and swift to really get that information out. It wasn't probably until September that a lot of residents then knew about the tax increase. They, again, came to some of the commission meetings. They did speak with staff, but at that point in time, there were still more questions than answers. So that was one of the reasons why I didn't support the tax increase. One of the other things is that I think is also important is that what I'm looking for, and I think would help residents, is to have sort of that, what they call a tax stabilization methodology, where I know that Weston does that, where in fact Weston this year had a dramatic increase in their taxes. Nobody really complained because there was enough information provided to residents in advance to say, hey, wait a second, here's 3 years of whatever their millage rate was, and now we're going to increase it. Still remains the same for the next 3 years, obviously providing unforeseen circumstances. So that's an important piece. But I also believe that we have to look at outside of the box. We have to, see where we can get other revenue besides taxing our residents. We're not a commercially based city. So cities like Coconut Creek or even Weston, Coral Springs, they have a sizable commercial base that they can, tax those entities, whether it's on property, whether it's, as part of business. We don't have that ability.
No.
And like I said, it falls upon taxpayers. So one of the things that we're doing is, which happens to be in the budget, is we're going to do a impact fee study.
Okay.
So that this way, things that, like our library, a lot of the revenue was provided by impact fees, which obviously is now expanding, which is a great thing, and that's also in the budget. So there were good things in the budget.
I agree with you with the timing. I think we were going through a lot, and I don't
Right.
think people's concern was thinking about taxes.
The other part that we're looking to is we're going to do a feasibility study in deciding whether to purchase a utility. Now, I know there's been preliminary conversations about the possibility of purchasing Parkland utilities.
That'd be great.
This happened several years or numerous years ago. I don't remember the exact time, but again, Commission had the ability to do that. It's a revenue base. It's an investment for the city. So if you were living in an area that was attached to Parkland utilities, instead of giving your money to a private entity, you're actually investing in the city. It's a great idea.
Let's see that.
We'll see what happens.
That segues into my question. What are on the horizons for 2019 in Parkland? I think the city's really looking forward to getting out of this year.
Right.
What new programs or communities, businesses, whatever you want to let our audience know that you were excited about?
Well, the Girl Scouts are coming back.
Really?
Yeah.
I heard that.
Yeah. I don't have a timeline. I don't have any more details, but they are coming back.
That's great.
They've expressed interest to take back the Telosier property.
I'm glad they never
So
got.
that's a great thing. We do have some additional communities that are being built. Ryan Homes, which is just north of the tennis center. Allegro, which is next to the Wawa. That Allegro is assisted living, independent living, and a memory care center.
The project on by the tennis center, that's going to be 55 plus.
Right. It's going to be or age restricted.
Age restricted.
Let's say correct terminology.
Let's be politically correct. I don't want to have anybody calling me, telling me I can't.
But as part of the Allegro, there was Allegro gave money to provide another EMS rescue apparatus, so we're going to have that. And like I said, we're always putting on programs. I mean, one of the things that are exciting for me, which I like, is a lot of the community programs that we do, and we still do. I think December 20th, one of the events is Snowfest. So especially growing up in Florida, kids that aren't used to seeing snow now have an opportunity to really dig their hands into it.
It's one thing I always said that the city should look into. You live in this great city of Parkland, and 4th of July is such a big part of what Parkland's about.
Right.
Parkland. We don't have a 4th of July,
right.
And I know it's very costly and expensive, but I've said this to Christine and other members.
Right.
You could get sponsors, you could have some. I mean,
right.
I would think years ago there was you guys used to have a parade. Mike,
right. We had a parade, and what happened is, again, as we continue to have a parade, the numbers kind of went down. So here you have a parade of, let's say, 200 families all parading, and then the following year it's 150, and then the next year 100, and then the next year 50. So you go, is that worth putting the money, the time, and the effort into that? Although it's a great program, it's a great event, either A, how do we promote it better, or B, or is the money spent better off in somewhere else? So that's where we came up with the Eats and Beats, the farmers market. I mean, our farmers market, there are elected officials, and I'm not going to name any names, but there are elected officials that come to our farmers market because they know that ours is much better than theirs.
Oh.
Not going to mention any names. Not going to throw any of those elected officials.
But let me tell you that farmers market is amazing, the turnout. But I think, we're the featured sponsor, one of the sponsors of the Halloween trunk or treat event. And I couldn't believe it.
Right.
I mean, look, probably people came from neighboring cities, but a lot of people go to the Coral Springs firework display. Right. So I don't know, it's something cool. I think it's
something for us to we'll consider it.
I think it's all about what Parkland's about, and it'd be cool to just walk across the street. But
we have actually our strategic planning, and we're doing more of a visioning type of strategic planning. And some of these things will probably surface
as the city gets bigger. You get more turnout. Because I remember sponsoring we did the concerts in the park for the food trucks, and we used to, I had a lady ice cream truck there.
Right.
I mean, that was years ago, and now we have this amazing event. So kudos to the city. It's great events. We love supporting it, and we look forward to 2019. Thank you for being our year edition. We'll have you back in a year. Okay. Guys, thank you so much for watching. It's a pleasure, and have a great evening with your family. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you.